What's cracking, guys? Welcome back to yet another part of the Rome Total War series, in which we try to beat the game on the hardest difficulty possible. This type of videos usually take a lot of time to make, so a sub to the channel would really be appreciated, and we'll guarantee you that you won't miss any future content like this. Previously we managed to snowball our economy by annihilating the Gauls and capturing most of their towns. Now if you're wondering how the frick we got to this point, go watch the previous part, you dingus. I most definitely don't have the time to explain all of that in this video. But don't worry, I got you, homie. The link is down in the description. Now that we ain't broke anymore, I do plan to finish what we started, and keep our rapid expansion moving mainly to the south. The territories in Spain should support our future endeavors against much stronger foes, like for example those pesky Germans to the north. That's the plan at least. The first thing on my mind was to secure the newly captured lands in Aquitania and Lugdunensis, or in other words modern day France. Capturing the town of Valesia was the primary objective. The besieged Gauls were foolish enough not to wait for their main army to come to their aid. Rather than that, they sallied out as soon as they saw a small detachment heading their way. That from a tactical standpoint was a grave mistake, but that was on them. It was about time for us to show why they can't afford to make such errors. As the battle began, we occupied the nearby hill and swiftly scattered their first wave. They tried to soften our line by making us waste our pillums, while conserving their heavy units for when the engagement was more close and personal. When their main force approached us, we locked their heavy cavalry on the left flank with some spear mercenaries and supported with our general bodyguard. The mercenary warband took down some of their horsemen, but couldn't hold for long enough for our general to strike the finishing blow, and buckled under the pressure. When the barbarians got close, most of their chosen swordsmen clashed with our hostari. Their chieftain tried to create an opening by crashing into our left flank. However, in doing so, he didn't anticipate a cavalry charge from the back. Upon his death, his army broke, deciding the outcome of the battle and the fate of the town. Once we occupied the settlement, we did a few quick renovations and moved out to clear the remaining barbarians in the near vicinity. Our faction leader caught up with their army outside of Lemonum. They were trying to desperately besiege the town. It's a good thing that we prepared for such an occasion.
You know me! I am a true Roman of the old style. I believe in discipline, dignity, and duty. I believe that Rome has a destiny to rule the world. I also believe that we have a destiny that starts afresh here. Today we fight against monsters. The Gauls, they are dangerous, mad, and hairy beyond reason. In victory, they are always heartless. We are here to do one job: prevent them from taking the town at all costs. We outnumber them by a large margin, but this may drive them to foolhardy defiance. Be careful. We are lacking in spearmen today, and the many enemy horsemen may make life a little hectic if we are not careful. I have fought these men many times, and even now they must be praying to their false gods for mercy. They will have little enough of it from me. Be of good cheer. Our comrades are marching to our aid even as I speak. Some of us will soon lie dead. The rest will drink to their memory, but, as always, we Romans will fight with honor!
Since the enemy was on the defensive, we managed to buy enough time for the town garrison to join the main force. Once everyone was in position, we began marching towards the Gallic line. When we were close enough, we unleashed every single throwable object upon the barbarians in an effort to bring as many of them down. When everyone had nothing more to chuck at them, the infantry was ordered to charge. They managed to pin down the Gallic horsemen on the flanks, surprising them even before they could move a muscle. After breaking most of them on the right flank, our troops moved towards the center. With every unit that we managed to free up, we supported the next one, moving from right to left. When it was clear how the situation would turn out, the barbarian general barely managed to escape with his life. His army, on the other hand, was not so lucky. After that engagement, we hunted down the remaining Gallic family members in our territory, and we started moving towards our next target, the Spanish city of Osca. After a few months of marching, our faction leader besieged the settlement, and once the battering ram was complete, the city fell to our soldiers. With that land now under Roman rule, we've secured the foothold, from which we could expand into the rest of the Iberian Peninsula. A few turns later, or a few months later, excuse me, the Spanish were knocking on the door, reluctant to leave us alone. They sent an army to try to retake the city. However, they failed to do so and were dispatched near the settlement walls. At the same time, a few rebel armies have popped up near the towns of Valesia and Narbo Martius. At that point, we already managed to construct the necessary buildings for us to train better units like archers and the more heavy principes, so that allowed us to swiftly deal with the rebel threat. From one of the battles that followed, a new man rose from the soldier ranks, proving himself as a capable commander and leader of men. That man was Quintus Philo, and we adopted him into the Roman ruling family. He had potential, so I decided that he can prove himself by capturing the last Carthaginian city of Palma. We started preparing the fleet for the journey ahead when we received the news. Looks like our friends the Gauls have managed to rage quit, and they no longer posed any threat to our growing republic. Upon assessing the family tree, we saw that our new family member had what it takes to become a great faction leader, so we appointed him as the next faction heir. After doing so, we transferred the retinue from our current leader to him, and we mobilized the troops for the upcoming operation. Once everyone was ready to move out, we received the word that a new man has risen to power, reforming the army and paving the way towards Roman imperialism. That man was no other than Gaius Marius. He proposed radical alterations with the intention of creating a more professional, permanent, and dynamic Roman army. With those reforms now in place, we gained access to a better unit roster and started phasing out the old Republican units, mostly using them to support our front armies while disbanding the ones in our more central provinces. When we boarded the ships and started moving towards the Carthaginians, our faction leader also moved to put pressure on the Iberians. The main goal was to secure the enemy city of Carthago Nova. After a brief skirmish, we managed to dispatch most of the enemy left to guard the way to the settlement, and we successfully laid siege. Our faction heir did the same with the Carthaginian town, cutting it off from vital supplies and stopping the recruitment of fresh manpower. When we were ready, both of our generals commenced with the assault. Palma's defenders didn't put that much of a resistance and were quickly brought down. However, the situation in New Carthage was different. Most of the battle took place outside of the city walls. The eager Iberians did their best to punch through our line, but failed to do so. After a few clashes with our infantry and a few cavalry charges from our general, they were routed. The few defenders that were left inside the settlement, including their commander, were not enough to hold the city plaza, and after being surrounded, were put to the sword. Once both of those territories were secured, Quintus Philo was recalled to the mainland with the idea to lead our force towards the next enemy city. We mobilized as much men as we could spare and joined the general outside of Carthago Nova. Time was of the essence here. We needed to keep pushing forward before the enemy had a chance to regroup. Meanwhile, we also prepared for further expansion east. Back in Italy, another one of our generals was ready to move on the Macedonian town of Segestica. The Macedonians became neutral to us when we decided not to get involved in their war against the Thracians. Seeing that they were swiftly losing ground in that fight, the decision to capture Segestica for the Republic was more than a sound one. The defenders did what they could, taking most of our men to the grave with them, but they were no match for the sheer numbers that we had in that fight. At the same time, the expansion southeast was going according to plan. I was more than eager to find out what happened to our previous friends the Gauls, so I've sent another army to investigate the situation. Upon arrival, we managed to find out that their last family member died of old age, and they turned into rebels without anyone to guide them. Further south, we reached the city of Cordoba, which we encircled faster than they could say,
Oh shit!
Romans! Due to the low number of defenders in both settlements, we managed to conserve enough manpower for the battles ahead. We recruited some local mercenaries in addition to that to bolster our ranks, and we marched to meet yet another one of their forces north of Cordoba. Both armies were cautious at first, waiting for the other to make the first move. We used that hesitation to inflict some damage on their line, while simultaneously using our general to harass any skirmishers brave enough to set foot beyond the safety of their infantry. When most of the ammunition was spent, our men charged forward, breaking the morale of many and chasing down those who tried to flee. Unfortunately, the enemy general managed to slip through the chaos and retreated further north. The bulk of his army was cut down, so our factionaire grabbed a few cohorts of legionaries, along with the mercenaries that we still had in our possession, and gave chase. Meanwhile, another one of our detachments was maneuvering from east to west in an effort to cut the enemy from retreating further. We were surprised to find not only the enemy chieftain, but also his successor out in the open, trying to desperately defend their land. The reinforcements sent from the now pacified city of Numatania managed to engage and bring down their faction leader. He put a heroic stand, but at the end, his nerve broke, and we were able to bring him down. His successor suffered from the same fate a few days after. Now with all of their field armies gone, we focused on the next town in the region. We encircled the city of Salabis and merged with the detachment north of our position. With our combined force, the settlement fell after 1 month of siege, as well as yet another one of their family members. Once the aggressor, now the hunted Spanish knew that the end for their faction was near. Once we were done with that whole ordeal, we rapidly mobilized anyone who was eager for more blood and combined our forces for one last push into enemy land. The gaps created by that move were filled in the passing months by fresh recruits from the now Romanized cities. On the way north, we met yet another one of their forces alongside the river Minho, blocking our way to the capital. It appeared that the last Spanish chieftain has refused to die hidden behind his settlement walls. A bold move, yet a foolish one. It would have been better for them to negate our numeric advantage by using the natural defenses that their buildings create. Unfortunately for them, however, that was no longer an option. They tried to retreat when they saw our force on the horizon, but we managed to catch up with them. Since they didn't have enough men to fight the battle, the whole engagement turned into target practice for our troops. At one point there was even a competition amongst the men, whose pilum will bring the mighty chieftain down. Needless to say, that the Iberian faction leader was more than upset when he saw more than 20 projectiles flying his way. With that, the Spanish were no more. Their last city had rebelled in an effort to save what's left before our army arrives. The journey towards the settlement took us a few months of navigating through the mountainous terrain, but we finally managed to arrive in front of the city gates. After the battering ram was complete, the settlement fell, and we secured the southwestern part of the growing empire. It was about time for us to turn our attention towards the turmoil on the eastern front. The Brutii have made significant territory gains on the Balkans, so we had to limit their growth towards the west. The best decision was to capture the now Thracian town of Oquincum in Pannonia. We gathered men from Patavium and Segestica, and we pushed on foreign territory, declaring war on the Thracians. They didn't have any units in the town except one of their generals, as most of their armies were engaged by the eager Brutii across their lands. We managed to capture the enemy settlement without much resistance, and thus we managed to establish the border that will separate us from our current Roman allies. Hey folks, Future Pixel here. This will be the spot where I'm gonna end the part. We're rapidly approaching the endgame content, so I do have something to share with you guys. I'm currently focused on completing the campaign and the historical battles within Rome Total War. After which, I might create a few tutorial videos to help those of you who might be struggling with crucial parts of the game, like for example the economy, units, reforms, tactics, the civil war, and so forth. Once we cover all of that, we should be able to move straight to Rome Total War 2 on the PC, where the real challenge begins. And most probably I won't be playing vanilla as well, so I'm kinda looking forward to that. That much said and done, thank you guys so much for watching the video, and I hope to see all you lovely folks out there in the next one. Roma Invicta!